Welcome back, friends. Last guy here. Time for more Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. So here we go. Before we begin today, I have a brief announcement. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light in these proceedings. The revelation that the well-known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice. And the discovery that a respected yard inspector was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion, that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Consuls, you will undertake this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. Resolve, yes. That's my intention. My lord, if I may inquire. The defendant may speak. On what grounds is Kazuma Asogi permitted to continue his role as prosecutor? He has admitted to colluding with the victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. He shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone be leading the prosecution. I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart, requesting that judgment of our transgressions be delayed by 1 day. You did what? In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything. My whole life for the last 10 years has been leading up to this 1 day. Kazuma! Whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. And I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper. Kazuma is bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression we're heading into very dangerous territory. Is that really even Kazuma-sama standing before us? As an extreme exception to normal practices, I have granted this prosecutor's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume? Yes, my lord. In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed hearing of Barock von Zeeks. The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Very well, then. This preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Asogi, begin. As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Brings Sashiro Jigoku into the courtroom. At last, then, we've reached the final battle. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get to the truth. Woo. Come on, Ryunosuke, it's time for that steely resolve, because this is going to test it to the limit. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court. So it was you who issued this, was it? Your subpoena? I did what was necessary. Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you'd take that tone with me, I must say. The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked. My name is Sashiro Jigoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I am of course fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear you also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. It was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations. I put my all into that treaty. Judge Jigoku, I must ask. Well, I never fancy the young murdering student turning up here of all places. You acquitted me yourself, and now I'm a practicing defense lawyer. Yes, and full of self-importance like your friend across the courtroom. I see. You came here to London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium. But then, without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France. Took flight? I'd have to object to that turn of phrase. Then explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this. And I'm sorry to say, I declined to comment. What? Leaving the country prematurely when I was an invited guest may be questionable etiquette. But my decision is unrelated to this case. I can't be bound to testify. Unrelated, you say? I appreciate that a respected police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I'd obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that. So you would run from all this? I beg your pardon? This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan? The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right, and you, Judge Jigoku, are at the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eyes that you're resolved to carry this through to the very end, too. Let's see your evidence, then. What proof do you have that Sessuro Jigoku is involved in this case? Okay, so is it the telegram from Japan. Doesn't this just kind of put Hosonaga in a bad spot? Do it. This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. The communication contained 4 names: Kei Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson. Yep, he can't believe you heard that. You little... Where did you get that? Okay, run one thing real quick here. I just remembered something I wanted to check. Why is this... We took a picture with him. Is there anything significant here? That was the question I wanted to ask myself before we started, but I forgot to look. Everything looks fine, so maybe not. Okay, let's go back in there. Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jigoku. That feels illegal. Like, that's illegal evidence finding. What? How on earth did you... What's all this about? Why is my name on that list? This list of 4 names follows a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. Kei Asogi and A. Shin are the names of assassins. No. A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Giselle Brett. But her real name was Asa Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. A. Shin and her victim, J. Wilson. And the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asogi, whose victim was the British police inspector, Tobias Gregson. A. Asogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other. What exactly is the defense suggesting? These two cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of assassin exchange. And the telegram the defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill. What? 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 The telegram was found in your office, Judge Jigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Judge Jigoku, what's this all about? And you, Kazuma? You lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you'd accepted the assassination mission. But the mark wasn't Judge Jigoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector in Scotland Yard. As shown by the name on the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. Huh? The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Sessho Jigoku was the monk came entirely from you. Huh? You deliberately avoided saying a name? The defense claims these 4 names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself? His silence only goes to prove his guilt. There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility that the scene of Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness's cabin aboard the SS Grouse. Judge Jigoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court. There's no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Very well then, as a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know. It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear about the alleged assassin exchange and the events of the night of the 31st of October. Present your formal testimony now. As you wish, my lord. Here we go. The assassin exchange. It's true that Kazuma Sogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. Oh wow, just admits that, okay. The target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened. That meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. Oh, we got him on that already. If there'd been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it. So clearly I can't be involved. Okay, we got that one for sure. I know where the contradiction there is easily. So you admit it then, as this communication suggests. There really was an assassination exchange arrangement between the Britain and Japan. A political endeavor at the highest levels, not something I can discuss here. To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce somebody to commit murder. It's the most appalling thing I've ever heard. Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge. Pardon? Asogi had a reason for taking a sword to that British inspector, you know. What? Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel? Man, he's got an interesting look on his face. Kazuma-sama? Judge Jigoku, if you are the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. I'm not obliged to divulge that information. It is state secrets. As I said yesterday, I've killed nobody. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassin exchange that the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case. The crucial point is this. The police inspector can't have perished aboard that steamship in Dunkirk. Because if he'd been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it. We have the evidence on that one, so no. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London, in the room on Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Barak von Zeeks. The prosecution's accusation remains unchanged. To think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian dealings. Clearly it's a plot only a government minister and higher-ranking judge such as the witness could hope to execute. Well, I seem to recall that it was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Be that as it may, it is not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot. We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? Yes, my lord. I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness. Alright, here we go. So I know what do you call it is, but let's see what else there is.
Hold it!
But the contradiction is. A year ago, when Cosmo was still in Japan then. Correct. It was at the examination center for applicants for the study tour that I approached him. I'll never forget it. I remember exactly what you said. You just came out and asked me forthright if I'd consider traveling to Britain on an assassination mission. Surely not. I thought it was a joke at first, of course, but then it was made clear to me that if I didn't accept, I wouldn't be considered for the study tour. So you agreed to it just for that? I mean, I know how much you wanted to study in England, but assassination? The Empire of Japan had accepted a proposal from the British Empire at the time. An agreement to send a student from each country to the others to deepen cultural understanding and friendship. But behind the scenes, the chosen students were to be given assassination missions. I had no choice but to accept the proposal that originated from my British counterpart. Why? Why didn't you expose the plot there and then? Britain has a lot more power than Japan. Britain acknowledges no part in these alleged misbegotten dealings. I advise you not to make spurious allegations. Foreign Minister Jigoku. As a witness, I am bound to tell the truth, my lord. Anyway, I picked Asogi and explained the details of the plan to him. There's something in my throat, I can't figure out how to get it out. I don't sound perfect.
Hold it!
Why Kazuma? Why did you pick him on as the assassin? He was the most capable of all the applicants, and in addition, I knew his desire to travel to Britain was very strong. In fact, it was almost more than a desire. It was his whole purpose in life. Yes, as his best friend, I can certainly attest to that. The way he threw himself into his studies, the way he pursued becoming qualified as a lawyer. It was all ultimately for that one single goal of being accepted on a study tour to Britain. And of course, we know the reason behind that. He was determined to find out for himself the truth about his father, Genshin Asogi. There's nothing I wouldn't have done to get here. Be that agreeing to assume the role of an assassin, or betraying people's trust. Well, you certainly did a fine job of betraying mine, Asuki. But why was Inspector Gregson the target? I have no idea. Those were the orders from Britain. I was in no position to question them. You have no idea? Really? I find that hard to believe. Oh, do you?
Judge Goku was once a visiting student here in Britain himself, of course. Perhaps he has some connection with Inspector Gregson from that time?
The defense really ought to catch up.
With what?
With the fact that the assassin exchange has absolutely nothing to do with the case under scrutiny here. Yes, I've already admitted to recruiting Asogi.
Hold it!
I presume you're referring to the incident that occurred during Kazuma's passage to Britain in January? The awful tragedy that took place on the steamship?
Word arrived at the ministry some 2 weeks after the ship's departure from our shores. The visiting student had been killed, but his body had somehow gone missing in Hong Kong. The news was wired to me from a detective I'd placed on the ship to accompany the assassin.
Obviously, Kazuma didn't actually die at all. But he did lose his memory, including all details about his special mission.
Did you not consider dispatching another assassin at that point? That wasn't possible, simply because
There was no cover.
that black-clad young student over there had already put himself forward as Asogi's replacement,
Ah, there you go.
and there was no way to stop him from reaching Britain.
Ah!
My hands were completely tied.
So Mr. Sholmes' strategy worked perfectly. He predicted everything that would happen, except for Kazuma coming back. Months later, my memory is returned. But I'd never intended to go through with the assassination mission anyway.
So you were playing me for right from the outset, were you? Is that it?
I'd sooner be guilty of that crime than of taking someone else's life. I was prepared to do whatever I had to, in order to get myself here in Britain.
This line of questioning has gone on long enough. All the court should be concerned about in the testimony given by this witness are details relating to this relationship with Inspector Gregson and the victim's murder. In that case, as I've already made perfectly clear, I had no connection to the man or his death.
And you have some means of substantiating this plea?
Hold it!
Here's where we're gonna get him is right in this one, but outside your cabin in the first class area of the SS Grouse, you mean?
Yes, that's right. Not least because there was a murder of a student passenger earlier in the year, I imagine. The liner operators have taken to posting a crewman outside every first-class cabin door.
I can confirm the presence of the crewman guard myself. What do you mean? Because I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk that night, I witnessed it with my own eyes. There was a well-built crewman standing guard directly in front of the door to the witness's cabin.
At that particular time, of course, I'd gone to the ship's dining room for dinner.
The inspector and I asked the crewman to allow us into the cabin while we waited for Judge Goku's return. I suppose Inspector Gregson was there in his capacity as the Reaper. He was intending to take the witness's life. Exactly. As I've said numerous times now, I had no intention of killing anyone. So the crewman let two potential assassins into the cabin he was supposed to be guarding? Not the most convincing of centuries, really. In truth, those were my thoughts too. But anyway, I stayed to talk with Inspector Gregson for a short while. And then I left him there and made my way off the ship alone. Was the guard still at the door when you went? Yes. He glared at me as I walked past.
You see, that proves it.
Except not. Except not.
Hold it!
Get in a minute. I don't know which one is the one we hit him on, but we'll hit him on one of these two. The crewman who was standing out directly outside your cabin door, you mean?
That's right. A muscular man with a permanent grim expression on his face. He didn't even move once from that spot.
There it is.
To be honest, I thought he was a miserable fellow. But as it happens, he's a vital witness now.
There's no doubt that Gregson was killed by a gunshot, and it's inconceivable that a crewman standing just outside the cabin door wouldn't have heard it. But wait, What about the ship's enormous steam engines? The noise of them could have drowned out the sound of the gun being fired.
Sadly, young judicial assistant, that won't wash.
Oh.
You will recall that my cabin was in the first-class area of the ship, which is also, of course, the quietest. Don't imagine for a moment that it's anything like steerage where the judicial assistants go.
I didn't mean... But a hole like that made by a bullet was found in your cabin, Jojigoku. That's compelling evidence that a gun was fired in there.
What's that? A bullet hole? Oh yes, you're talking about what the detective uncovered in the wall yesterday, I presume. That was obviously a rotten panel eaten out by wooden worms. No doubt he didn't find an actual bullet.
That's the hole in this argument.
Sadly, I was unable to arrange for the crewmen to be brought back to Britain with me. But obviously, if a gun had been fired in my cabin on the night in question as the defense implies, I would have been arrested on the spot, and would never have made it to Britain in the first place. Very true. The witness's logic is sound. Since no gunshot was heard from the witness's cabin on the night in question, we must assume that the witness is telling the truth. I'm glad you've seen sense, my lord.
I know Cosmo's already admitted to taking on this incredible assassination plot, but even so, hearing it confirmed by somebody else is still a real shock. It's unforgivable, using Cosmo-sama's feelings to manipulate him into agreeing to such a despicable plan. But I think Cosmo manipulated Jojigoku too. He completely double-crossed him. Oh dear, it's hard to not see that as a stroke of brilliance on Cosmo-sama's part. One way or another, though, Gregson ended up dead. I really think that the murder must have happened aboard that steamship. So you mean Jojigoku must be lying? I know I shouldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. But you must destroy him, Mr. Naruhodo. Get his ass.
Alright, let's see here. So go to the last one. It seems like they really hammered in that this is the one. But Scum Save is a nice tool to save. Ah. Okay, here we go. Present the the drill.
Objection!
There it is. Yes, as the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Jojigoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that, contrary to the witness's claim, the guard wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31st. Whoa! Where did you get that? It's evidence gathered by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. You were acquainted yesterday, if you remember. Herlock Sholmes again. According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m. and for a period of 20 minutes, all crewmen of the SS Grouse were to gather on deck for an evacuation drill. All crewmen were away from their posts? And during that 20-minute interval of course, any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. In summary, Judge Jigoku, you had ample opportunity to commit the crime. Ugh.
Objection!
Dude's got a beard. A 20-minute window of opportunity. That's an excellent find, Ryunosuke. But it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in his cabin. Unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false. Your accusation is nothing more than conjecture. Very true. Well, counsel? I have something. Inspector Gregson was killed in Jojigoku's cabin that night, I'm certain of it. Because the defense has the evidence to prove it. You will present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel. What proof do you have that the victim's life was taken in Jojigoku's cabin on the 3rd of October? I feel like if Jigoku just went self-defense, he would have been fine here. I don't know why he covered this up.
Dejigoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday.
What is that? The crown of a pocket watch? A pocket watch?
And if you will observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part.
It can't be.
Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit on the spindle protruding from the victim's watch.
Hmm?
Now, the fact that this was retrieved from Dejigoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke there.
Ugh.
In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill. In the cabin occupied by you, Dejigoku.
Look at his face. It's like, whoa, crap. Well, you're razor sharp, aren't you? You young murderer.
Objection.
Expertly maneuvered, Ryunosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible. And at first... But rather like this pocket watch. It's full of cracks. The time on the watch, maybe? I don't know. What? Or how did he refrigerate the body? And I believe Dejigoku feels the same way.
I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year.
Sorry?
If I'd known that it would result in anyone having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world a ridiculous bombast.
Huh?
I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony. When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall into which you've stumbled.
Prior to renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point.
The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge he was there, I presume? Yes, I do. Very well, then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of the 31st of October. Of course, as a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice.
Sure, he just did. Like, bitch, please. Alright, here we go, witness testimony. The events in the cabin.
I had guests waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked through the door, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I seemed to catch him with an Ippon Seoi throw, though he couldn't wait to run away after that. I imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It was nothing to do with this murder. The inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain because his body was found in London.
Yeah. Dejigoku had to get around the other day, so I don't know.
Ippon Seoi. A common jujitsu martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavily for his watch to take.
So Ryunosuke Nadahodo, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you?
What?
The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there.
It was in the box, though! Ah! It was in the luggage, that's the issue. I've no doubt the inspector intended to kill me, but he didn't manage to pull the trigger.
Yes, because he was merely the tactician, not the Reaper's hand of death.
Well, the testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell. Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord.
But if this testimony holds, Dejigoku will be deemed to have no involvement in the case.
Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here on a cross-examination.
Sorry, my lord. The defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that.
You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten.
In that case, proceed, Mr. Nadahodo. Alright, here we go. Cross-examination. My throat's starting to give out. I don't know how much longer I can go for this episode. The events in the cabin.
Hold it!
Because the so-called guard posted at your cabin door had just let your killer pass, you mean?
Apparently Gregson told the crewman he was a police inspector, which was the truth, of course.
He wouldn't have had his identification with him, though.
He had his trench coat and mustache, not to mention the bag of chips. I imagine the crewman was convinced. Ow!
But the man accompanying him would have had 2 swords slung around his waist.
You mean me?
Who else?
Yes, that's true. You would have hoped the sight of a few swords might have set off alarm bells in the god's head.
The point is, I left the cabin before his occupant returned, and I immediately disembarked the ship.
Certainly. All I can tell you is that only the inspector was waiting for me when I arrived back at my cabin.
And you entered without any inkling of suspicion?
That's right. None whatsoever.
Throat's giving out. Keep going, though. It's not out yet. Obviously, you're talking about Inspector Gregson.
Yes, though at the time I didn't know the man's name, and there was no time for introductions. I valued my life over manners.
By which you mean that the inspector was there to assassinate you, I suppose?
That was certainly the impression given by the gun pointing in my direction. But I've never seen the muzzle of a revolver shake about so much in all my life. Anyone would think the man had never shot somebody before.
Believe it or not, most of us haven't.
Anyway, there was no time to call for the help with the crewman at the door, so I dealt with the man myself.
So here's the question. How did the crewman not notice Gregson leaving?
Hold it!
Even though the man had a gun? That was a very brave move, wasn't it?
A Nippon Seoi is far faster than a bullet, I can assure you.
But surely all that commotion caused the crewman to come in, didn't it?
Yes, of course. He burst in immediately without knocking. The inspector hurled himself at the stocky fellow and just managed to slip past him to make his escape.
That's a lie. The outstanding guard does it again.
Luckily, there aren't many situations I can't get out of using a quick Ippon Seoi throw.
Seoi... Press. I had the wrong controller. There we go. The crown snapped off and the glass covering the face of the watch was cracked.
Preferably to the man's head being pulled off or his spine cracking, wouldn't you say?
Not that the man was spared for long. A bullet to the chest soon saw to that. But the point is, the broken pocket watch doesn't prove that a murder took place.
Absolutely not. All the watch proves is the power of my jujutsu throw.
Whatever you say, it doesn't quite ring true that no shot was fired in that cabin. Because there was an obvious bullet hole in the wall.
What are you talking about? That's what the star of your lowbrow detective stories told you, is it? Well, I don't care for such fiction.
Huh.
Haven't you worked it out yet, you little stripling? The murder took place in my cabin.
Hold it!
But there's no evidence that proves the victim ever returned to London alive.
Just take a moment to think that idea of yours through now, stripling.
What?
The inspector was killed on the steamship in France. How on earth could he have got back to Britain? When people die, their bodies remain at the same spot. It's a devil of a thing.
Well, then, obviously the culprit must have moved the body.
How exactly? Carrying a corpse off a ship in your arms would raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think?
He was in the luggage, obviously. The question is, why was there no blood in the luggage? Oh yes, that's true, but... All passenger luggage is inspected when it is unloaded from arriving vessels. Okay, well then, And I would like to think the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman as hand luggage. If the murder had taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at sea. There would be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the body back to Britain. Good question, yeah. That's killed that idea then. But perhaps not. Mrs. Sato? We've heard that the first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by the crewmen posted to guard them. Which would mean that the culprit had no opportunity to dispose of the body in the sea. Good point. Yes, that's true. So transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative. Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? Huh? I thought I'd been perfectly clear, but it seems I'm going to have to explain it in words you can understand. I think I'll alter my testimony with your consent, of course, my lord. Oh, hey, okay, do it. I have no objection. State your amended testimony now. There's no possible way I could have transported the victim's corpse back to Britain. Oops, I didn't person that. So that's his story. Well, I suppose if you think about it, whenever you drop a teacup in the office and it breaks, we don't say Miss Naruhodo must have been murdered there, do we? Is that a veiled threat about what might happen to me if I break another one? And the fact is that Inspector Gregton's body was found in the little room on Fresno Street. If he really was killed in Judge Shigoku's cabin, the body would have had to have been moved somehow, obviously. Transporting a dead body over country border? That would be impossible for the majority of people. But there must have been some special circumstances that made it possible for the culprit then. That could be a vital realization, I think, Mr. Naruto. Okay, he is diplomatic, so I don't know. We'll press this and stop there. We'll figure out what the thing is and stop. There's an idea. Think about it, stripling. All passengers and crew disembark at the same time and pass through the same checks at the border. This imposing guest were then driven straight to the hotel in carriages organized by the ministry. And we met you as soon as you arrived at the hotel. So you did? Well then, remind me, did I have a corpse over my shoulder at the time? What? No. So in agreement then, I couldn't have possibly brought the inspector's body back to Britain. Unless, of course, they've developed some clever device these days to instantly move things from A to B. Funny you should say that. Professor Harebrain's invention didn't actually work, if you remember, Miss Naruhodo. Yes, of course. The defense has become unusually quiet, I notice. Yes, because there's really nothing more to say. Okay, let's see if we got what we need for this. Let's go all the way back over there. We'll save there. Okay, so... Save. I can hear the desync. Okay. Alright. Go back and see if there's anything. We still know about the sword. $9 p.m. and midnight. Oh no, this is the old one. This is Clint. Whoops, wrong one. Where's Gregson's? And nothing there. Well, the luggage is right there. Can I present the luggage? We just saved. I'm gonna present the luggage. I'm gonna present the picture.
Objection!
Yeah, there it is. Okay, we'll stop there. So next time, we will push the luggage. So that's it for now. I like this picture's got to mean something. It's a Chekhov. Yeah, it is. Yep. Alright, so there we go. That is it for now. I had fun. Hope you've been watching. That's what's all about. It having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.